Black CEO publicly insulted at luxury showroom 48 hours. Later, the director lost everything. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. You can't afford this. The words sliced through the air like glass. Every head in the luxury showroom turned. The man in the navy suit, sharp, loud, certain wasn't whispering. He wanted an audience. In front of him stood a black woman in a burnt orange dress, phone in hand, posture calm but unyielding. The reflection of chrome and chandeliers shimmered around her, but her stillness drew more light than any car in the room. He took a step closer, voice thick with disdain. People come in here to look, not to pretend. You should try the dealership down the street. Used cars might fit your budget. A nervous laugh broke from the woman beside him, the showroom director. Let's not make a scene, she said, smiling as if politeness could sanitize cruelty. But the scene had already begun. A young couple by the window froze mid-conversation. A security guard shifted his stance near the glass doors. Somewhere, the espresso machine hissed like a whisper of tension. The woman didn't flinch. She simply looked at the man's badge. His name gleamed beneath the lights. R. Langford, sales director. Are you finished? She asked quietly. The tone wasn't defensive. It was surgical, measured, and precise. But Langford mistook her calm for weakness. Finished? No. I'm saving you from embarrassment. You can't even test drive these models without a verified client account. He smirked, gesturing to the line of cars behind him. Do yourself a favor. Walk out before people start recording. Too late. Someone already had. A young intern near the reception desk had lifted his phone not to film, but to check the name she had just given at the counter. His eyes widened, but he said nothing. Not yet. Across the showroom, the luxury world carried on. Champagne glasses, murmured laughter, the quiet click of high heels on marble. And yet, the air had changed thin, charged, waiting for something. The woman glanced once at the silver coupe beside her. Its surface reflected both of them, the man's anger and her restraint, two opposite versions of power. I came here for a car, she said, voice calm. Not a performance. Langford laughed, full and mocking. Performance? Lady, this is the performance. You walked into the wrong show. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we're glad you're here. Now, back to her. The director folded her arms. Sir, maybe we should... He cut her off. No, let her speak. I want to hear what excuse she gives before I have her escorted out. The woman took a slow breath. Then another. The same kind of breath she'd taken 10 years ago outside a hotel lobby that once told her, we don't take walk-ins. Different city. Same tone. Herr Gott's steadied. You're right, she said softly. Not everyone can afford this. Langford smiled, thinking he'd won, but her next words landed like thunder under silk, especially the kind of respect that costs nothing. Silence. The kind that hums. The kind before a storm. She hadn't planned to draw attention. She came here the way she always did, quiet, deliberate, invisible if she could help it. No camera crew, no entourage, no designer bag swinging from her wrist, just her phone, a slim wallet, and the quiet kind of confidence that makes loud people nervous. The marble floor shimmered beneath her low heels as she moved past the line of silver and midnight cars. Each reflected her image back at her, smooth, calm, controlled. The irony wasn't lost on her. She owned half the models in this room, just not in name. The brands belonged to her holding company, one that operated behind clean subsidiaries and neutral shell logos. On paper, she was a ghost. In truth, she was gravity. But Langford couldn't see that. Men like him never could. He watched her the way he'd been trained to, scanning wardrobe, tone, posture, searching for status cues like security badges. When he didn't find any, he filled the gap with arrogance. You know what? Let's just be real, he said, stepping closer again. You're wasting everyone's time. His words hung in the air, heavy, slightly desperate. The intern by the reception desk looked up again. His screen still glowed with the CRM dashboard. The name she'd given Amara Lewis was highlighted in gold. A tag read, Executive Client, Level 7. Private Portfolio Access. He blinked, then looked at her, then at his supervisor, who was too busy whispering to Langford to notice. Amara's eyes drifted to the display near the far wall. Lacera V10 Hybrid. Her company had funded that engine's early development. The irony stung like static. I didn't ask for special treatment, she said softly. Only respect. Langford scoffed. Respect is earned, sweetheart, not claimed. That word sweetheart landed harder than he expected. A few guests turned their heads. One woman whispered, "Did he just?" Another raised her phone halfway, thinking twice. Amara stayed still. She'd seen this movie before, same arrogance. New cast. 10 years ago, a bank teller had once looked at her ID, then her skin, then said, "We don't serve business accounts that large without verification." She remembered that pause, that suspicion, and the silent promise she made after, never again. Now she was back in that same silence. Different marble, same judgment. Langford folded his arms, smirking like he'd won something. "Look, don't take it personal," he said, lowering his voice. "We get people trying to bluff their way into attention all the time." Amara smiled faintly. "And what do you do when they're not bluffing?" He hesitated, searching for a retort. None came. From behind the glass wall, the director's voice echoed faintly, calling for a client report. The intern hesitated, then typed something quickly, his fingers trembling slightly. Amara caught his reflection in the window. A whisper of conscience. Maybe the first crack in the room's silence. "Miss Lewis," the intern murmured. "Your appointment was confirmed, ma'am." Langford spun. "What did you just say?" The boy froze. "Nothing, sir." But it was too late. The truth was out, faint but alive. A ripple through marble and glass. Amara turned slightly toward him, her eyes calm, unreadable. "Seems someone did their job today," she said. Then she looked back at Langford steady, unshaken. "You said respect is earned. I agree. A beat. You're about to earn a lesson you'll never forget." The air tightened. The storm was only beginning. Langford's jaw tightened. That one sentence, "You're about to earn a lesson," stuck to the air like smoke. He hated that calm. The kind that didn't flinch, didn't rise. The kind that told him he'd just made a mistake without her saying a word. He stepped back half a pace, trying to cover it with laughter. "Lesson? Please, don't flatter yourself." The showroom director, Claire Benson, drifted closer, her perfume cutting through the air like expensive denial. "Is there a problem here?" she asked, eyes darting between them. Langford gestured broadly. "Just handling a misunderstanding. She's not an approved client." Claire's voice softened, the kind that's meant to sound professional but lands condescending. "Ma'am, some of our models require financial pre-authorization. We can help you find something more accessible." The word accessible hit like a velvet insult. Amara didn't move, didn't blink. The marble under her heels felt colder now, but her composure didn't crack. From the far side, a pair of guests chuckled quietly. One of them whispered, "They always try to act like they belong." Another replied, "You can tell by the shoes." Langford smirked, hearing it. "You see? People notice. That's not prejudice, that's experience." The intern looked up from his desk, horrified. His mouth opened, then closed. His supervisor's glare pinned him silent. Amara's voice cut through the noise, soft, even, surgical. "You keep calling this experience. I call it habit." Claire sighed, already impatient. "Look, we can have security escort you to the exit quietly. No need for a scene." That word again, scene. It followed her through airports, restaurants, boardrooms. Always the same warning, disguised as kindness. Don't disturb the peace of people who already broke it. The boy at the desk shifted in his seat. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, torn between orders and conscience. Langford leaned closer, lowering his voice to a sneer. "I don't know who you think you are, but this place runs on reputation, and you don't exactly fit the image we protect." Amara's eyes lifted slowly. "The image you protect?" she repeated. "Or the one you project?" That hit him harder than she looked. His face flushed under the white lights. A few guests had stopped pretending not to listen. Phones were out, not raised high but angled just enough. Watching, waiting. The security guard by the glass doors finally moved, straightening his tie, glancing toward Claire for a cue. She nodded. Subtle, quick. "Ma'am," the guard began, voice rehearsed. I'll need to ask you to wait outside while we verify your claim. Verify your claim, like her presence itself was a lawsuit. Amara turned her head slowly. And if you're wrong? The guard hesitated. Then, I'll apologize. Oh. She smiled, faint, unshaken. You won't have to. I'm used to systems correcting themselves. Langford's laugh cracked through the tension. You're used to being corrected, that's what you meant. The words echoed louder than he expected. Even Claire looked uneasy now. Somewhere near the coffee counter, a woman whispered, "Is she filming this?" Her husband replied, "She doesn't have to. Everyone here's a witness." The silence that followed wasn't peace, it was pressure. Amara adjusted her posture, spine straight, voice measured. You've spent the last 10 minutes protecting an image. Let's see how it holds up against reality. Langford frowned. What's that supposed to mean? But she didn't answer. Not yet. The calm was returning, that terrifying calm. And in it, the entire room began to sense what Langford could not. The real show hadn't even started. The silence stretched thin like glass about to crack. Langford still stood tall, arms folded, pride balancing on arrogance. But something in the air shifted. The kind of shift you feel before a storm breaks. Behind the reception counter, the intern's hands hovered above his keyboard. He could hear his own heartbeat louder than the showroom music. He looked at her again. Amara Lewis. Calm, composed, unbothered. He'd seen that name before. On a list marked internal priority, do not delay. He'd memorized it without even meaning to. Now, he watched a director threaten to escort that same woman out of her own investment. He swallowed hard, then spoke. Quiet, trembling, but true. She's on the system. Langford's head snapped toward him. What? Her name, the intern said, voice shaking. Amara Lewis, executive client, level 7 clearance. It's right here. The room stilled. Claire blinked once, twice, as if the words didn't make sense yet. Langford's face twisted into disbelief. You must have pulled the wrong profile. The boy shook his head. No, sir. It's linked to the holding company, Lacera Group. Someone near the cars whispered, Wait, Lacera. They own this brand, don't they? Langford turned red. Delete that record right now, he barked. You don't disclose client data out loud. The boy hesitated. Sir, she's the client data. Ugh. That line hit like a hammer wrapped in silk. Every head turned back toward Amara. She didn't move, didn't smile. She simply turned her gaze toward the boy. Thank you. 2 words. Soft. But they changed everything. The security guard stepped back, uncertain now whom to protect. Claire's hand lowered from her earpiece, confusion replacing control. Langford, desperate, forced a laugh. Oh, so what? You're saying this woman's a billionaire? Please. You people fall for anything. Ugh. But no one laughed with him. Amara took a single step forward, heels striking marble like a gavel. What he said isn't belief, she said. It's verification. Langford shook his head, trying to rebuild his authority. Anyone can fake an entry. The intern's voice steadied this time. Not this one, sir. It's encrypted. Owner level. Murmur spread. The couple by the coupe whispered, She's the owner? Another voice near the door added, She doesn't look like one. Amara heard it, every syllable meant to reduce her to appearance. She turned her head slightly, meeting the speaker's eyes. That's the point, she said. You never see us until it's too late. The boy swallowed hard, both terrified and liberated. He'd just broken rank, but it felt like breathing for the first time. Claire exhaled sharply. We need to confirm this with corporate. Amara replied, calm as stone. You won't have to. Corporate will call you. Oh, Langford scoffed. Desperate. You think one intern's mistake changes policy? She looked at him slow, deliberate. No, it reveals it. The lights reflected off the cars like water. Every engine emblem, every polished surface, mirrored the same truth. Power no one had recognized until it stood in silence. The boy at the desk lowered his eyes. He'd done what none of them had spoken when it mattered. For the first time, Langford's voice faltered. You set this up, he accused. You wanted a scene. Amara shook her head slightly. No, Mr. Langford. You wanted an audience. I just let the truth take the stage. The room breathed differently now. Whispers turned into stares. Phones lifted, not in mockery this time, but in quiet awe. Outside, thunder rolled faintly in the distance. Inside, justice had just taken its first breath. Langford's voice cracked. but his pride didn't. He was cornered now, and men like him only knew how to fight, not fold. "Security!" he barked. "Now." The guard hesitated. One glance at Amara, then at Claire. No one moved. "Do your job," Langford snapped. The guard sighed and stepped forward. His hand reached out, fingers brushing the edge of Amara's sleeve. The room froze. It wasn't a grab. But it didn't have to be. Amara's head turned sharply, eyes steady, voice low. "Don't touch me." Her tone didn't rise. It cut clean, final, absolute. The guard froze mid-motion, shame flickering across his face. Claire interjected quickly, trying to patch the damage. "Let's calm down, everyone. This isn't necessary." But the damage was already done. The image, a black woman being handled in a showroom full of cameras, would travel farther than anyone's apology. Someone whispered, "He actually touched her." Another, "She told him not to." Langford straightened his tie, deflecting guilt with arrogance. If she had nothing to hide, she wouldn't care. That sentence. She'd heard it before, 15 years earlier, a college career fair in Atlanta. She wore her best suit, cream blazer, neat bun, folder of credentials in hand. A recruiter looked her up and down and said, "You sure this resume is yours?" When she didn't react, he added, "If you didn't have something to hide, you wouldn't be so quiet." Différentes places. Same voice, same tone, same wound. She'd buried that moment years ago, turned it into ambition, into silence that could buy entire buildings. But standing here, surrounded by mirrors and polished lies, the memory rose like smoke. Amara inhaled once, slow, steady, then looked at Langford. "You just repeated history," she said softly, "and it never ends well for people who do." He smirked, not understanding. "Is that a threat?" "No," she replied. "A pattern." Claire rubbed her temple, muttering, "For God's sake, stop talking and call corporate." Langford ignored her, voice rising. "You think you can walk in here, pull a stunt, and scare us with big words? You're nothing but a fraud in heels." The crowd gasped. It wasn't what he said, it was how freely he said it. Amara didn't move, didn't even blink, but the air changed again. The kind of quiet that makes your pulse sound loud in your ears. The intern whispered, "Sir, please stop." Langford turned on him. "You're fired if you say another word." Claire's face went pale. "You can't fire him, Richard. Watch me." That was it, the breaking point. The mask of professionalism was gone. The showroom didn't feel expensive anymore. It felt small, claustrophobic with guilt. Amara stepped closer, voice barely above a whisper. "You've mistaken politeness for permission." Langford leaned forward, snarling. "And you've mistaken status for power." A pause. Then Amara said it slow, deliberate, certain. "No, Mr. Langford. I am the power." Every camera in the room caught that sentence. Every whisper turned into silence. Thunder rolled outside again, closer this time. Somewhere in the distance, a phone buzzed. And on the other end, someone important was already watching. The air didn't move. Even the hum of the lights seemed to fade. Langford's grin twitched, as if realizing too late that something invisible had just shifted a current he couldn't name but could feel crawling across his skin. Amara's phone buzzed once. She didn't look down. "You done?" she asked quietly. Langford scoffed. "Am I done? You're the one about to be escorted out." She spoke over him, calm, flat, commanding. "Elena, Protocol 7. The words dropped like steel. For a second, nobody understood what she'd said. Then, somewhere behind her, a voice came through the phone, crisp, confident. "Female. Protocol 7 initiated. Internal systems engaged. Stand by for verification." Langford blinked. "What the hell was that?" Claire frowned. "Who's Elena?" Amara didn't answer. She finally raised her phone, screen glowing with a secure network interface. Her company's logo, Lacera Holdings, pulsed faintly at the center. The intern gasped. He'd seen that system before on corporate admin dashboards, but never live. It was the kind that required owner clearance. "You're bluffing," Langford said, voice shaky but proud. "You think flashing a logo proves anything?" Amara's tone didn't change. "I don't flash proof. I activate it." The phone chimed again. On the showroom's main display wall, the giant LED board used to showcase new models, the screen flickered. The brand's emblem disappeared, replaced by the Lacera Holdings insignia. A collective murmur rippled across the room. Claire's voice dropped. "That's impossible. That system's offline to the public. Not to ownership. Amara replied. Langford's color drained. You can't do that. You're hacking the system. Hacking? She tilted her head. It's called access. The phones of several staff members buzzed simultaneously. Notification, internal audit in progress. All managerial accounts temporarily suspended. The intern's eyes widened. Sir, your login just locked out. Langford snatched his tablet, the screen flashed red. Access denied. His hand shook. You did this? Amara nodded once. No, you triggered it. Claire whispered. Oh my God. Guests had stopped pretending not to film now. Dozens of tiny red lights from phone cameras dotted the air like stars in a dark sky. Amara lowered her phone. Her voice softened, but the authority inside it was absolute. Mr. Langford, every word, every gesture, it's being logged. The footage, the audit, the access revocations, it's all time-stamped. He stepped back, sweating now. You can't. This isn't. You don't have the right. I have ownership, she said. And I have patience. One of those just ran out. Claire stumbled over her words. You actually... Yes, Amara interrupted. I am. Silence returned, but this time it didn't belong to him. It belonged to her. The intern whispered to no one in particular. She's not bluffing. Langford's lips parted, searching for any thread of control. None remained. You set me up. Amara's chaza didn't soften. I set a standard, you failed it. The LED screen flickered again, confirming audit completion. Access revoked. R. Langford, showroom director. He stared, unblinking, as the badge clipped to his jacket flashed red, then went dark. Guests whispered, That's live. That really happened. Amara stepped forward, eyes steady. You wanted a lesson, Richard, here it is. A beat. Power doesn't raise its voice. It simply turns the lights off. And in that gleaming showroom, under 1,000 watts of silence, that's exactly what she did. No one breathed. The screen on the wall still glowed, axis revoked, pulsing red beside Langford's name. Every phone camera in the room caught it. Every whisper carried it further. Langford's voice cracked first. This is some kind of trick. Amara didn't look at him. She simply placed her phone on the nearest counter, screen facing up the Lacera Holdings dashboard, still live, still glowing. Next to her name, 2 words blinked. Primary owner. That's not possible. Claire muttered, her voice a thread. The intern spoke up again, quieter now, as if the truth itself demanded respect. It's real. I just checked the corporate registry. Langford turned on him. Shut up. But the damage was done. The words were out. And words, once freed, don't return. Guests began to murmur, disbelief turning into realization. Wait, she owns it? The whole brand? Lacera's the parent company. Every question became a confession of ignorance. Every stare, a mirror. Amara finally spoke. You called me a fraud, she said, her tone calm but sharp enough to cut marble. She stepped closer, slow, measured. In the company I own. The words hung there, heavy, final, cinematic. If silence had a sound, it was this. Langford's mouth opened, then closed. No argument fit the air anymore. Amara continued, voice steady. I built this network. Every showroom, every license, every employee contract routes through my signature. And today you made it clear exactly who doesn't belong here. Claire swallowed, eyes glistening with embarrassment. Miss Lewis, I had no idea. You didn't need to, Amara replied. Respect shouldn't require an introduction. A few guests clapped softly, unsure, tentative, but genuine. Others simply watched, guilty and fascinated, as truth rearranged the hierarchy in front of them. Langford reached for his badge again, pressing it as if sheer will could override it. It didn't. The light stayed red. You humiliated me, he whispered, desperate now. Amara shook her head. No, you did that to yourself. The intern, still near the counter, spoke softly, not to her, not to him, but to everyone. This is what accountability looks like. The sentence lingered. It wasn't grand, it was grounding. Amara turned back to Langford, her eyes steady, voice almost kind. Consider this your final lesson. Power isn't what you take from people, it's what you prove you deserve. Claire lowered her gaze. The guard stepped back. No one else moved. Outside, the thunder had stopped. Inside, every surface reflected her calm, composed, unshaken. She reached for her phone. Elena, she said, notify corporate communications. Archive today's feed. Make it public. Confirmed. the voice replied. Langford stammered. You can't post this. I can, Amara said. And I will. Because silence protects patterns. And I don't build patterns that oppress people. I break them. The wall screen faded to black. Then, for one long moment, the entire showroom reflected her alone, the quiet center of everything they'd just learned. Her voice softened. You called me a fraud. But the only thing fake here, she gestured around the gleaming room, was your respect. And just like that, the balance of power flipped forever. The system didn't crash. It evolved. A quiet chime echoed through the showroom's speakers. Then another. Every employee device blinked with a single notification. Access privileges updated. Please stand by for verification. Claire's tablet dimmed. The front desk terminals froze. Even the payment system at the counter logged out. Langford stared at the message like it might blink away if he waited long enough. It didn't. He turned to Claire, panic creeping into his tone. Do something. I can't, she said, voice shaking. We've been disconnected from the internal server. Amara didn't gloat. She simply watched the structure she built, the one they tried to weaponize against her, begin to correct itself. One by one, the showroom lights recalibrated, dimming slightly as if bowing their heads. Security badges flickered red across uniforms. And for the first time all day, the silence in that luxury space belonged to justice, not intimidation. Langford lunged toward the front desk. Reset the system now! The intern blocked him, his voice steadier than before. You're not authorized anymore. Langford froze mid-step. The words hit harder than any shout could. From the doorway, a guest muttered, She just shut down his whole career. Another replied, He earned it. Amara turned toward Claire. Effective immediately, your management privileges are suspended pending audit. Corporate will contact you by noon. Claire nodded slowly, guilt drowning her voice. Understood. Langford's face twisted part disbelief, part desperation. You can't fire me in public. You fired yourself the moment you forgot what respect costs, Amara said. The phone's recording didn't waver. Someone whispered, This is history. Another answered, No, this is balance. Outside, rain began to fall soft, deliberate, cleansing. Amara picked up her phone again. Elena, confirm closure. Audit completed, the voice replied through the speaker. Langford, Benson, and security suspended. Report archived to legal. Langford's badge buzzed once, then went completely dark. He looked down at it, shaking, as if staring at the end of a world he'd always thought he controlled. You think this makes you right? He muttered. Amara's voice was gentle, not triumphant. No, it makes the record complete. For the first time, she saw fear in his eyes, not of her, but of consequence. The intern exhaled, a sound halfway between relief and disbelief. Around him, guests began to applaud, not the thunderous applause of a show, but the slow, rising sound of people recognizing truth. One woman stepped forward, tears shining in her eyes. I've seen this happen too many times, she said quietly, but never seen it end like this. Amara smiled faintly. It ends differently when we decide it should. The applause grew louder. Phones captured everything. Langford turned toward the door, shoulders slumped, walking out into the rain. Every reflection on the marble floor shimmered not just with light, but with change. Amara stood at the center, unshaken, the hum of systems rebooting around her. Elena, she said softly, restore operations under new credentials. Done, ma'am. The lights brightened again, but this time, they reflected the right owner. Justice didn't roar that day. It whispered, and the whole world heard it. The rain outside softened, turning the glass walls into silver sheets of calm. Inside, the applause faded into the hum of quiet awe. No one knew what to say, maybe because everything that needed saying had already been done. Amara stood at the center of it all, a still figure surrounded by luxury that suddenly looked smaller than her presence. Her phone buzzed again. A single notification. Audit complete. Ownership verified. Media upload. Successful. The clip was already live. Within minutes, the world would see what dignity looked like when it didn't need to shout. She turned toward the intern. He looked terrified still and proud. You did the right thing, she said. He swallowed hard. I almost didn't. Almost doesn't build better systems, she replied gently. Courage does. He nodded, eyes wet. A few guests approached timidly, their voices soft. Miss Lewis, I'm sorry for how we looked at you. She gave a small nod. You look through me, not at me. There's a difference. Then she turned to Claire, who still stood near the counter, ashamed, quiet, human again. We all serve something, Amara said. Just make sure it's not your prejudice. Claire's eyes filled. I will. Amara gave a faint smile, the kind that forgives without forgetting. She looked around the showroom one last time. The cars gleamed like contrition under the soft light. The air smelled new again, not of power, but of perspective. Elena, she said softly, forward the report to ethics and HR, then close the feed. Done, ma'am. The LED wall dimmed. The Lacera logo pulsed once, then faded to black. Amara picked up her phone, sliding it into her clutch. The sound of rain filled the silence left behind. She took one step, then another, toward the exit. The crowd parted instinctively, not out of fear but out of reverence. At the door, the intern called out, voice trembling. Miss Lewis, what should we tell people when they ask what happened here? She paused, hand on the glass. The reflection staring back at her wasn't a billionaire. It was a woman who'd learned to make grace look like power. Tell them, she said, that silence can be loud. A beat. And that respect isn't requested, it's recognized. She pushed the door open. A breeze swept in fresh, cool, carrying the scent of rain and reckoning. Cameras flashed from outside, but she didn't slow. Her steps were steady, her voice when it came softer than the storm itself. I didn't raise my voice, she said almost to herself. I raised the standard. The automatic doors closed behind her, sealing the sound of change inside. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the intern whispered, almost like a prayer, "That's how you change a system?" And somewhere far beyond that glass, the city lights flickered not out of fear but acknowledgement. Justice had spoken, not in anger, but in excellence.